Hello, hello, Mike. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. This is Freedom Fighter Radio. We're covering this total eclipse craze that everybody is so um, enamored with. And rightfully so, I remember this is the third solar eclipse that I'll be experiencing in my entire life. Two other eclipses I experienced as a child, preteen in the Philippines, but the eclipse that's happening right now, um, it's starting to get dark outside. I'm in Midtown Toronto, and I don't have my camera on because I have a pre-recording that's happening later tonight, and so I'm just kind of saving all the battery possible. But it's very dim outside now. It looks like it's 6 o'clock p.m. The way it is right now, looking out my window. As you can tell, I don't have my camera on. I just have this little coverage of the CVC on YouTube Live as they're covering. And at Deer Park, everybody is staying home at school, and my daughter is home with us right now. So it is going to be very short because I don't have a lot of battery juice on my gadgets here. I'm really preserving it for a guesting that I will be having tonight with Omari Taylor. Actually, you guys have to tune in sometime this week. I am going to broadcast the Omari Taylor interview. As you know, Omari Taylor is the one sort of like in charge now with many of the protests that's happening downtown Toronto. And at one point, it was Matthew Haley who was in charge of all the protests. But I can see Omari is really, he doesn't miss a beat. He's like every Saturday when I pass by, I couldn't join on Saturday because I've been observing my Sabbath on Saturdays for the last many years. So I do not join the protest on Saturday. But from time to time, I see them, same crowd, go downtown Mississauga, downtown Scarborough on a Sunday. Anyways, I like to kind of cover a little bit what's going on. I know you won't be able to hear what's being the audio from the CBC there. As you know, we are not big fan of mainstream media, but live coverage like this, you can see on the screen right now, it's very dark in Niagara. It's starting to really get dark, but the idea for this total solar eclipse is it's supposed to go pitch black dark, and that's the kind of solar eclipse that I have experienced myself growing up in the Philippines. I want to come on quickly today to talk a little bit about the solar eclipse because it always comes with a lot of superstitious belief, and there's a lot of people speculating sinister darkness, not only literal darkness but also spiritual and political darkness happen in these kind of events. Well, I can tell you that it's no different when I was experiencing total solar eclipse in the Philippines as a child. It came with a lot of superstitious beliefs as well, and a lot of concern and anxiety. And I think we should not be in that place of anxiety whenever things like this are happening, folks. We have to take it in stride. Actually, it's an opportunity to have fun with your kids. If my daughter's not too scared about it, she's kind of got scared because she doesn't have the glasses. She thought that she's going to get blind. Well, I was telling her, as long as you don't stare at the sun. When we were growing up in the Philippines, we were poor and we cannot afford any of these protective sunglasses. And of course, you're not staring right at the sun, but when it's become partial eclipse or total eclipse, it's not as bright anymore. And although I'm not recommending anybody to stare at the sun without those protective glasses, it depends on your ability to tolerate light. And so it also comes with some sort of radiation and UV rays. So play on the safe side. Use protective visors if you can. But if you're not staring at the sun and you're just trying to have fun in the crowd out there with all the kids and family. It's a family event. I find it to be, I'm kind of jealous. Some of these kids I see in Niagara, some of the schools actually arrange some sort of field trip for their students to go out in Niagara. But in Deer Park here, where our kid is going to, they actually cancel classes today. So the kids are home today. They kind of switch the PA day with today so that people can stay, children can stay home and maybe enjoy this solar eclipse. It's a good thing. I do all my operations from home, so I'm home. But for many families, if they didn't plan ahead and their children are staying home, then they have to make arrangement for their little children what to where to stay and who to look after their children on a unexpected day like today. I can see, you can see on the screen right now our uh, the live broadcast of CBC. You can see how dark it is out in the oh, this one is Kingsville, Ontario. It's almost very very dark, and I'm looking outside my window. It looks like 6:30, 7 o'clock darkness, and I'm going to just tell my daughter to, hey Celine, go take a look at the window and outside. We're at home, obviously. So, my daughter didn't want to go out, but like I was saying, even in the Christian world, there are many who speculate that this has something to do with the end times, something to do with spiritual activities in the spiritual world. You know, the truth is the activities in the spiritual world is always busy. It's always active. It never really, they don't they don't specifically choose. Well, I have to step back a little bit, but because the Bible talk about how the suns, the stars, and all the celestial beings are created by God actually for to mark seasons and to mark events and time. And so I don't know if you guys uh, seen one of my posts about a couple of weeks ago regarding this guy talking about some of the ancient calendars, how many of the calendars have been kind of skewed. If you think of December, the 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 suffix, or sorry, prefix, the prefix for the months: December, November, October. If you just think of the prefix, right? Oct stands for eight, right? Octa is eight, so supposed to be in the eighth month. Nov stands for nine, supposed to be in the ninth month. December, the prefix is deca, which means 10. December is supposed to be the 10th month. And this particular researcher was sharing how April should be the first of the month. As we know, throughout the history of humanity, um, the um, the way we track time has been skewed to actually alter and cover up some of the very important events that the Bible has laid down for humanity. And for example, the Sabbath is now very much violated among many Christian communities because we don't even know if our Saturday in the Gregorian calendar is actually the seventh day of the week. The word month means month, right? Because the moon cycle, the moon, uh, the earth rotates around the sun. It takes a full year for the earth to complete its rotation around the sun, but the moon rotates around the earth, or yeah, it rotates around the earth, and it takes about 20 28 days for the rotation to complete. And so we most of our Gregorian calendar accounts for 31. Wow, it's really dark outside now, folks. It looks like 7 o'clock. We're staying at home. I've seen total eclipse in the past, and for me personally, it's nothing special. This is part of our natural world, the creation of the Lord, our universe. is composed of planets, stars, moons, and even debris, right? But there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of superstition that comes with it. Some are, I would say, would have merit to, as you can hear, my background's a little noisy because everybody's home today. My wife happens to be off from work, and like I said, my daughter is kept home, or I mean, the school didn't want to have school days today. It's totally dark outside now. I'm looking at the window at my apartment, and oh, well, I hope I could turn on my camera. But my camera, I'm saving my camera battery for tonight's pre-recording. So yeah, it looks like nighttime out there. I can see the building adjacent from our apartment. They are all lighting up their lamps, and yeah, it looks like midnight out there now. So it's wonderful to experience from time to time this very rare occasion. But apparently, total eclipse, it is not not as rare as you think. It is pretty common actually. Everybody come on the comment section and tell me, where are you observing the total eclipse right now? Where are you listening to me? I can see there's quite a traffic on our live listeners right now. We can go on Rumble. We are on X and YouTube and Crosspost on Facebook. We still have, because of our new system here, we still cannot tap into. Oh, look at that screen, folks. Look at the screen. That's Niagara Falls. It's totally nighttime. It looks like a nighttime with all their flashlights and camera phones lit up there. Yeah, so like I say, it should be taken as a family event. Having said that, like I was saying earlier, the Bible talks about God has set the stars, the moons, in the celestial beings in our sky for the very purpose of marking time. Yes, there are meanings, there are messages on that comes, and but it takes a little bit of interpretation and deciphering. There are some people who spend a lot of time and do a really deep dive into understanding the signs of the times. I will not pretend to know anything about, well, I do a little bit, but I will not pretend to be an expert or be in depth in my knowledge about reading the signs of the time. But the among Christian believers all across North America and Canada, the question was being asked, and I apologize to my brother Sean Mapes, who's asking me for a little clip on what I thought about the upcoming eclipse a few days ago. And I couldn't give any opinion because I was not in depth. I was not very dialed in this particular eclipse. Like I said, this is my third solar eclipse in my entire life, and I just turned 50. So it's not that rare. It's pretty common. Many of these celestial events, like the blood moons and comets and meteors falling off the skies, these are common events, but we cannot totally just dismiss them as nothing burger, because it do come. Many of these events do come with meaning, but I will not pretend to know what the meanings are. To be safe as Christian believers, and there were many questions that are being asked, is this the sign of the end times? Because of many other sinister simultaneous events that's happening during this eclipse. For example, in Switzerland, they are running, at this moment, they are actually running the Large Hadron Collider that has been on hiatus for, I heard, for about a couple years now. The Large Hadron Collider was reactivated today in Switzerland. What's that all about? And I heard that in the United States, and many of our listeners are from the United States, shout out to all our American cousins down south, that there is the FEMA and the Homeland Security or some law enforcement are actually deployed on high alert during today's eclipse. Look at that. I think it's starting to get brighter in Niagara Falls. I know exactly that field where that is. We sat down on that field many times for on a picnic mat or whatnot. So it looks like it's starting to brighten up, meaning the edge of the moon as it totally covers the sun is now edging. The sun is now edging out on the bottom right there, as you can see on the screen. It means it's about to pass. So this actually this this brings a lot of questions to all many of our flat earther theorists out there. That I'm not deep into the flat earth thing, but that the flat earth theory doesn't really sit well with me. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But I do respect people's opinions, and many of the flat earthers, they use many to establish their premises, to establish their hypothesis, or their what's the word for it, to establish their argument. They are using many of the hoaxes or scamming that NASA have done in the past regarding space flights and spacewalks. And it is even questionable now if we actually landed on the moon back in the 70s, and now even we were not able to replicate that at all. And the Indians and the Chinese actually sent rocket ships to the moon now. But when you watch it, it looks pretty much like very, very strong. Or I think the feed that we are following here just ended. We'll look at some other feeds. Let's go to time or okay. Let's go do another feed here in the U.S. Tupper Lake, New York. I have the big screen TV on my left side here. I can still see some of the CBC live reporters in front of the Niagara Falls. It's pretty dark, but for some reason, because I'm feeding the one from YouTube, it seems like the YouTube feed just ended for some reason, but it is still live on the stream. So bear with me. I'm just gonna keep on talking while we wait for the live feed to. Okay, there you go. We're back on the live feed. Looks like it's edging out, and yep, it's starting to get brighter outside my window as well. And this solar eclipse, or these total eclipse, it doesn't stay for a long time, because the Earth is on a constant move, and the moons around planets and the planets around the sun are on constant move. And so flat earth theory really it flies in the face of many flat earthers when we see many of these events. And if you look at the screen right now, these are high quality telescopes that can actually stare at the eclipse. You can see the moon move. And if you have a very good telescope, I never had an experience, never been able to afford a telescope, even an amateur telescope. But I used to do photography, and my camera has a long lens, which is cannot measure up to any even amateur kids telescope that you can buy from kids toys stores. But even with the long lens that I had with my DSLR, if I go full zoom into the moon, I can see if it's a big moon, if it's a super moon, a full moon, and I have my camera out and I max zoom my long lens on my DSLR pointed at the moon, I can actually see some of the craters and the roundedness of the moon, and it looks very spherical, in my opinion, and that's what my eyes see. And Timothy Alberino is talking about how his neighbor actually has some super power telescope, and they would look at many planets in our solar system, and you can see all these planets up in our sky, and they look very spherical. And because the shape of sphere is a very mathematical naturally mathematical phenomenon, right? As even many things in nature, the Fibonacci sequence, right? The Fibonacci the Fibonacci sequence appears in nature in many instances, even in snowflakes, right? You see, if you put a snowflake when it's not yet melted, if you put a snowflakes under a powerful microscope, the crystallization of the snowflakes, you can see the shapes, the geometric shapes that are being produced by simply nature is wonderful. The Bible said that the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. Let me just shout out to some of our listeners. Geraldine, Missioner Anderson is listening to us from Canada. Karen Henneberry, I'm feeling the CERN magnet EMF, not the eclipse. I wonder what they're doing. Yeah, CERN, which is the Hadron Collider in um, Switzerland, is very active today. Karen, they announced that they are going to run the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, in CERN in Switzerland today. For some reason, why did they pick today? And again, there are some smelly, suspicious things that comes with this kind of events. Like I said, why is FEMA and the Homeland Security and other law enforcement agencies in the United States were made to be high alert on a natural phenomenon, a natural event such as a total eclipse? What's up with that? What were they suspecting could happen during a solar eclipse? I have a photo of the moon lying in the branch of one of my trees. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Karen. And yeah, so I have my not very long, not very expensive DSLR. It's just I can't remember the actual specification. It's one of those regular long lenses. It's not super powerful long lens, but like I said, if I point that to the moon, I can almost see, not high definition, not close up, but I can see the craters and the cracks on the moon. Moon is a beautiful. I'm fascinated by the moon, but to many of our Christian listeners, you might remember a few years back, around I think maybe I can't remember 2015, 2014 maybe, just before the election of Donald Trump. I think it's around that time. I can't. I'm sort of like estimating here. I can't remember exactly anymore. But there was a season in our life in North America where the blood moons were happening uh, in multiple instances within span of weeks. And I remember John Hagee, one of the respected pastors of the evangelical world in the United States, have covered, even wrote a book on the four blood moons that was happening in those times, and he was postulating that it is the sign of the end times. And of course, 2014, 2015 has long came and gone, and nothing sinister or in the effect of an end time event or an apocalypse even happened. Having said that, folks, do you guys remember the scare of the 2012? There were so many unimaginable things that happened in our present day history that people are starting to either tune out or just feeling like there's no surprise and there's nothing amazing about some of these things anymore, that they don't pay attention. 2001, right? Y2K, before the year 2000 turned, they said all of our computers and all of our electronic equipments will go haywire. So 2000, the year 2000, is going to be a big deal. It came and gone. Billions of dollars were spent to prepare for Y2K. A lot of people say, well, nothing happened. What's all that about? But then, in hindsight, there are many engineers who are saying that there are actually some sinister thing that happened during 2000, that the year 2000 turn. but it's not one that we can perceive. What about 2012, right? Remember the movie 2012? They say that the Mayan calendar ends in 2012. So 2012 is a marker for the apocalypse. Oh, it's totally bright outside now. The eclipse is totally gone. Um, we're back to daytime again. What time is it? It's 3:33. Oh, look at that. That's another superstitious number. 3:33 p.m. I used to wake up almost every night at 3:33 a.m. in the morning for no reason. Just my eyes pop open in the middle of a deep sleep. But indeed, there are spiritual things that is connected to those kind of things, but it's not what we think of, though. It's not what we think of. Like I said, 2012. 2012, people were saying it's the end of the world. It's going to be an apocalypse. 2012 have come and gone. Nothing happened drastic. Nothing on the apocalypse level event. Nothing on something they call, what do they call that again? The extinction L E extinction level event. There are many people who capitalizes on these, even though they don't have any research or any backing or any proof for their postulation. But because of as you can notice, usually I would be broadcasting leading up to an event, not after or during, because I want to create anticipation if something is very important. But this particular eclipse, I waited until it was happening because to be honest, I don't know much about what people are saying about this eclipse. That's why I didn't want to give any comment. But I am, whenever something like this is happening, I am hyper aware. I am trying to tune in as much as I can. I do not allow myself to be consumed by it anymore. Because last year, I don't know if you remember, when I had that big emergency that I was picked up by the ambulance from my home and sent to the ER because of my severe sciatic pain that out of the blue just kind of hit me hard. What was that? July, I think. Is it around July or August last year? The morning before that event, I was talking about my return to covering end time events and prophecies because for many years, even as a deacon in the church, someone who was working actively in ministry, I for many years I purposely kind of avoided the talk of prophecy and end time events because I thought those indeed in my personal experience growing up in the Philippines, there are con men or there are scammers who would use the fear tactic to 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 hoax people into paying attention to whatever they're selling, um, capitalizing on end time events. And I know that there are so many people who actually uh, purpo- purpo- supposedly have given their hearts and had a born again experience. But to think about it, did they actually, you know, got a Christian conversion, or were they succumbing to fear porn, fear tactics of how some preachers and how some snake oil um, con men have used the apocalypse, have used the end time prophecies? The end time prophecies are for real, folks. I'm not discounting the validity, and I'm not discounting in any way, shape, or form the importance of paying attention to prophecy. But I'm just telling you the reason I kind of shied away from talking about end time prophecy for many years, for more than 10 years, when I was active in Christian ministries, because I thought, there are more important things than end time prophecy. I thought, things of family and love and forgiveness and all these things, that daily life situations, daily life matters Those are when I was in active ministry. Those were my focus. How to be, uh, excellent leadership, life. Integrity, and all kinds of non-prophetic, non-end time, non-apocalyptic event. But last year, when I went live the morning, it was a strange day actually. It was a strange day. I stopped to a in my neighborhood cafe here so that I can connect to their parking lot Wi-Fi, and then I was going live. I said, I will restart from now on. I would cover a lot of end time prophetic and looking at the end times and the signs of the times, because now it's not veiled anymore. It's almost like out in the open now. All the sinister darkness that the technocrats, the tyrants, the Luciferians, the satanic occult, they're out in the open with their agenda, with feeding people bugs, taking away our possessions, the transhuman agenda, the AI proliferation to replace people's jobs, replace people's. Oh yeah, just think about it. Ever since the smartphone, the proliferation of smartphone became an ubiquitous, common place. Did people get smarter, or were people become more dependent and connected to AI, or to the internet? But now AI, in the last few months, in the last year, the the exponential ability of these AIs, ability to have conversations, have create jokes, write a poem, write music, write a song. Man, it's almost like you could be fooled, and I think it's a deception, because people are saying, many of the engineers are saying that there is. Some are saying there's full sentience on this AI. Some are saying, there are half sentience. I will tell you my opinion, and I share the opinion of Steve Quayle on this. I know that technology can never achieve sentience on its own, because even artificial intelligence is pretty much just a superpower algorithm. It's algorithm that creates more algorithm that enhances itself exponentially, but it can never attain sentience like humans have sentience, because we know that we are spirits. We have souls, and we live in a physical body. And I, I'm I'm tempted to go really deep on some of the things that I'm preparing for you guys regarding, this pre- presupposition, this what's the other word for it? Assumption that many have taken that our predecessors or our ancestors are dumber than us, and we are smarter than our ancestors. And I was listening to Timothy Alberino's one of his latest podcasts, and he's postulating that we are actually a B version, or a watered down, dumbed down version of our ancestors. He was saying that he believed that Adam and Eve had some supernatural powers that are not amazing to see. It's just ubiquitous. It's normal. Nothing burger for them, but their ability to comprehend, their ability to their their human ability is 100 times more capable than what we are, how than our capabilities in the modern human um, society right now. Think about the theory, and I think it's Plato. What's Plato's first name? Plato, the philosopher Plato. He's the first one to kind of give a hint on the postulation of a um, the the lost society, the lost world of Atlantis. And Atlantis supposedly have been a very advanced society, more advanced than where we are. I bring this up because last night I was watching Tucker have an interview with this guy. What's his name again? His last name is Johnson, who's spending $2 million a year. You guys know who I'm talking about? He's spending $2 million a year to try and his philosophy is not die. So he's spending $2 million a year on his own body to create an algorithm how he can slow down the aging of all of his organs and his overall aging. He's 47, 48 years old, his late 40s, but according to him, his doctors and the lab who's working on his body, they're saying that he has the body of a 17-year-old. A 17-year-old, the agility, the youthfulness, his organs, his heart, his but you gotta check out. This is one of Tucker Carlson's last, one of his most recent long form interview, which is out in the open. This is not part of the paid Tucker Carlson network broadcast. This is you can watch this on YouTube. I watched the entire event. It's only an hour long, and this guy is talking about how it's possible with the help of AI that we are at the cusp of creating an algorithm so that humanity will live forever or will not die. Except for accidents and whatever. But in terms of health, the health consideration, according to him, that it is possible to create an algorithm, or another word for an algorithm is like a prescription, a a set of discipline, what to eat, when to sleep, how to sleep, and all kinds of stuff. And he asked this question of Tucker. He said, Tucker, if there's an algorithm that is perfected, which will help you live forever and not die, would you not be interested? He's asking Tucker Carlson, would you not be interested to know more about, and would you not be obedient to the suggestions of this algorithm? What to eat, when to sleep, when to exercise, and whatnot. And I love Tucker Carlson's answer to this question. He said, "No way, 100%, 1,000% no, because I don't want to be a slave to a toaster. I don't want to be a slave to a machine." And I love his answer. The many of these so-called bright minds are filthy rags. The like the Bible said, our righteousness are filthy rags in the eyes of God. Our intelligence, our what we consider to be smart, high intelligence, is really cockroach level IQ compared to the mind of the Lord, right? That's why the Bible said, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways," because God's ways are higher, and God's thoughts are higher, right? And the the assumption by many of these scientists, the reason they think that he used some analogies. I don't want to kind of recreate it because I would miss a step here. I won't be very accurate in what he was explaining. You have to watch it yourself, and I might do a coverage on that particular episode in one of these days. But he was saying something to the effect like, the society or the civilization of the 25th century, the 26th century. Imagine that you are one of those people looking back to our present day. Right. That was his analogy. Wouldn't they think that, you know, uh, they will blame us for the good, for the bad choices if we make bad choices, or whatever choices we make today in our present day society. People in the future, in the 26th century, will either praise us or blame us for the choices we make. And Tucker was saying, well, the best choice right now is we know that AI is going to kill many, many humans. So before it gains strength, why don't we just blow it up? Why don't we just kill it? And I totally understand and actually agree 100% with Tucker Carlson's postulation. You know, there are use for AI if they are slaves to human. There are robotic ethics, robo ethics, AI ethics that I don't think any of the aestheticists, that's a very hard word to say, or the engineers, those who play in this space, I don't think they really respect robo ethics and AI ethics. I believe robo ethics was written by Isaac Asimov, right? Isaac Asimov, the guy who also, I believe, he wrote the movie, the story behind the movie uh, iRobot with Will Smith. Well, Isaac Asimov created that philosophy that was depicted in that movie. You know, never hurt a human. There are three laws of robotics. I don't know it top of my head, but I don't think the engineers will really respect that. And the reason, many of the reasoning that roboticists and AI proliferators are saying right now, it's it's almost deja vu when Oppenheimer and many of those evil scientists created the nuclear bomb. They said if we don't do it, then the enemies will do it. The Russians will do it. The Iranians will do it, right? And so the the proliferators of AI right now are saying exactly the same. If we don't develop AI, even transhuman manipulation of our genomics, the human gene, cloning, for example. Remember when they first cloned the sheep Dolly, and those who are in that space of cloning humans, you know, even though there are laws against it, in dark labs, under the table labs, or in dark, behind the scenes, behind the curtain kind of uh, well-funded labs. I'm talking about something that is akin to uh, Peter Daszak's funding of the Wuhan virology, the Wuhan lab, right? Andrew Young, CBC Andrew Young is quite a cringy. Anyways, just looking at this guy's face cringed me up so much. Um, yeah. So, um, kind of lost my train of thought there. You were talking about? We were talking about, yeah, the proliferation of cloning, human cloning. Started with animal cloning. You got to see this documentary available on stream. I think the title of the documentary is called King of Clones. Is a Korean scientist, South Korean scientist, who actually became very popular, and then he fell from grace. And anyways, always the military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, the these evil Jekyll and Hyde scientists that are funded by our governments. Their usual excuse is if we don't do it, the enemies will do it, so might as well do it. And and the vast majority of the society falls for this kind of the range philosophy. Why do I say that? If you watch the latest movie Oppenheimer, pretty good movie, I would say. I would recommend everybody to check it out. But you would learn from that movie, which is a depiction of actual history. When they dropped the atom bomb in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the war was already over, folks. the war was over. Hitler is dead. The Germans, the Nazis, have been uh, are being rounded up in Germany, in Poland, in all of those European countries where the Nazi have taken over. They have been defeated, but why did they still need to? Was Japan even a bigger threat than the Germans during that last uh, those last episodes of the Second World War? Were the Japanese even a bigger threat? Why did they drop two bombs in Japan? Killing who? Were they killing military industrial complex of Japan? Were they targeting, naval bases or military bases? No. They killed hundreds of thousands of ordinary Jane and Joe Japanese, children, women, fishermen, salarymen. Hundreds of thousands in Nagasaki and hundreds of thousands of Japanese in Nagasaki and what's the other one? Hiroshima, for no reason except to prove that they have a bomb. That's that's my that's my theory. My opinion. That's my opinion about that, because there was no need, and they were saying this is the bomb that will end all wars. Did it end all wars, or did it strengthen the future wars that is profited by the military industrial complex? Another podcast I would recommend everybody to listen to. I know we kind of deviated away from all these talk about Eclipse today. I think the Eclipse marks something. I don't know what it is yet, but it does mark something, because just to kind of step back a little bit, I was talking about and cut myself off, which I always do. So apologies to all our listeners. This is a bad habit that I have, starting a dialogue and then cutting myself off. And I just did that even now to go back to the 2012 topic there. In 2012, they said that it will be the start of the apocalypse, the end of the world, the way we know it, because the Mayan calendar ends in 2012. The Mayan calendar doesn't have any more calendars post 2012. So what does that mean? Is it the end of the world, right? And there was a very big Hollywood movie that came out with the title 2012. Nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. Everybody's kind of like bracing for a big apocalyptic event, and nothing apocalyptic happened. But on hindsight, a lot of people are saying, was there really nothing happen in 2012? Or something happened, but we are not privy. We just didn't know what it was. Is that possible? Well, some theorists, or you can call them conspiracy theorists, but it is kind of, oh, look how dark. That was the scene in Niagara Falls, folks. You can see on the screen right now. It became like midnight darkness when the eclipse was total eclipse. Right there, you can see how dark it was in Niagara Falls, and how the Niagara Falls was lit with their multicolor light. That was just a little over an hour ago, or a little less than an hour ago, and I can look out my window right now. It looks like daytime again. Um, Anyways, okay, I'm jumping all over the place. Let's go back to 2012. They saying, nothing apocalyptic happened in 2012, but on hindsight, there are people who are saying that the uh, the Mandela effect, the Mandela effect has probably been activated in 2012. And when you look at the Mandela effect, do you guys know what is the Mandela effect? That there are two sets of memories among the population. Um, I'm not gonna go into detail. I just, but check it out. What is the Mandela effect? A lot of people were saying now in hindsight that the 2012 event was actually the trigger point for the Mandela effect, because it's true that there are half of the population that remember Mandela dying and being buried 1 year, and then fast forward many years later, it happened again. So some people have memory of Mandela dying on an earlier year, but there are a big segment of the population who do not remember that. And when many years later, it came out in the news that again Mandela died and is being buried. So people are scratching their heads and they're like, didn't he die already many years back and was buried and there was a big celebration? And then it was happening again many years later. But half of the population or half of the people who were paying attention never had a memory, but some do. And honestly, I'm one of those who remember Mandela dying many years earlier. And then we heard it again that Mandela's dying again. What is this? So half of the population have one set of memory, and the other half of the population have a different set of memory. I heard from some conspiracy theorist. You can say it conspiracy theorists. It cannot be conspiracy because usually conspiracy are created by humans, right? But if this is a phenomenon, this is like a physiological or spiritual or antimatter kind of phenomena. Well, the album. I have a friend who told me that she and her mom have an album. I think it was sang by the Queen. You know the song "We Are the Champions." We are the champions, my friend. Right. So she and her mom, they had. Was it the Queens or was it the? No, no. Anyways, they had the album in vinyl for many years that they've been listening to every year. She comes home to her mom. The album ends with the song, the particular song ends with "We are the champions, we are the champions," da, 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 da. And then it ends with "We are the champions of the world." Remember that, guys? So if this Mandela effect is true, half of you would say there's no "off the world" ending in that album. And some of the older one would say, yes, there was "off the world." It ended with that phrase "off the world." We are the champions of the world. Right. I remember the one with "off the world." But if you buy the album now and you go to any digital recording of that song, "We Are the Champions," it doesn't end with "off the world." It's a new version. And now, what is really crazy about this is she said this vinyl that they've been listening to for decades upon decades, every year, they're listening to this record, and it always ended "off the world." After the Mandela effect, they took the exact same vinyl record, listened to it, and all of a sudden, it's playing the new version. All of a sudden is playing the new version. And only people who have memory of the old version are shocked. Many of the younger people who never had the memory of the old version find it just to be natural. So check out Mandela effect, right? So I'm just presenting it to you for you to ask more questions. I don't know the answer. I am also I do believe in supernatural events. I do believe that there are forces that are in our planet, in our universe, that are beyond our comprehension. So today's eclipse, of course, there's no apocalypse that happened. It's been an hour ago since a total eclipse. Is there anybody there? I haven't tuned in. This is live CBC. Well, it's replay because it's dark in her background, whoever this CBC talking head is. I can't remember. I used to know a lot of people at the CBC. I think her name is Arsenal. Anyways, well, this particular shot is live, I think, because it's bright there. Um, Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen. Okay, so is this particular eclipse, did it do something in the spiritual world, in the supernatural hyperspace? I'm not gonna get into deep with the, the hoax of the multiverse, and that is a scam. But truly, together with Timothy Alberino, I believe that there is a hyperspace, a multi dimension within the same space, and it can be studied through physics. This is the natural world. This is not mystic or magical. This is, physicists, astrophysicists, and quantum physicists talks about multi space within the same space, a hyperspace. So one of the example of the features of hyperspace, for example, is the infrared light or ultraviolet rays. We cannot see it with our own eyes, but it doesn't mean it does not exist. What about dog whistles? Humans cannot hear it, but dogs can hear it, right? So there are multi dimensions within the same space. Nothing mystic, nothing conspiracy theorist about it. These are physiological and natural phenomenon. So we didn't see any apocalyptic event that happened, and that's why I am not an alarmist myself when things like this happen. I think whenever we have things like this, solar eclipse and red moon, blood moons, meteors, or Halley's comet passing through our one which is quite unnatural though is the Oumuamua. You guys should check it out. What's up with this Oumuamua asteroid? It seems to it seems to fly not based on gravity. Comets and asteroids usually they are moving because of momentum. They've been bumped to, but the Oumuamua apparently is almost like a craft. It changes direction, it changes speed. That is sinister. That is strange, wouldn't you guys think? If it's a real asteroid, how would it be able to change speed, change directions, and come back and forth? No other comets or asteroids can go one direction and then go around, come back, and then change directions and change speeds. So Oumuamua is something to look at. But other than that, some of these regular events like the Halley's Comet or asteroids falling on Earth and space rocks hitting our planet, those are ubiquitous. Those are normal, natural world phenomenon. Tidal waves and stuff like that is in relation with the movement of the moon. I think solar eclipse like this should be a family event. We should take our children out and have some fun with other kids in just like what we saw here on the coverage earlier. I'm gonna get rid of CBC now. I think they're done with the eclipse, and I'm done with them. um, right. So we're about to sign off here. Coming up soon, I have a pre-recording with Omar Taylor tonight. One thing I would like to ask our regular listeners, I would like your opinion because I got an email from Eric Hacker. Do you guys remember who's Eric Hacker? So Eric Hacker is one of the whistleblowers from one of the Raytheon labs in the South Pole. He guested at Sean Ryan and also at PBD, and both long form podcasts have been seen by hundreds of thousands. I think the Sean Ryan episode was seen by multiple millions of Americans and YouTube, subscribers worldwide. When during those time, even prior to the UFO disclosure in the U.S. Congress, prior to that, he already came out. I wasn't interested with him initially because he was associated with Dr. Stephen Greer, who I find to be questionable. But I find his testimony, his whistleblowing, to be credible. Eric Hecker. He's the guy who said that he discovered, being a contractor at the Raytheon lab in the South Pole, that he discovered that the so-called the neutrino detectors, the ice cube neutrino detectors, he discovered, talking to many of the engineers that was in the lab, that it was not just a detector, it was not just a receiver, but it was actually a transmitter, which in effect is the biggest DEW, or directed energy weapon, in the entire planet. And he believed that there was an incident in Christchurch, New Zealand, when they had an earthquake at Christchurch, New Zealand, that this was a direct effect on some of the testings that the Raytheon lab at the South Pole, in the South Pole, have engaged in, that caused the earthquake. So I do believe that there is weather manipulation, weather disasters that are produced by directed energy weapon. We still have an edited video of my guesting with another scientist who discovered the satellites on top of Lahaina, Hawaii last year when the big fire happened. He was tracing the activities of Chinese satellites, and he guested on the show. I still haven't gotten around to edit that video. But Eric Hecker messaged me the other day. He said, I never seen your request, because that was many months ago. I think more than 6 months ago, I told him, hey, if you're okay with guesting with a small platform, I'm no Sean Ryan, I'm no PBD podcast who have millions of subscribers. We're very small. If you guest on small platforms, may I invite you? And this was more than almost a year ago, a little less than a year ago, when I sent that message. He never saw it. And then out of the blue, just 2 days ago, he said, hey, I didn't see it the first time you sent me this, but you know what? Send me an email and a link to some of your podcasts, and I will come onto your show. I haven't replied yet because I want to ask some of our core listeners on the Freedom Fighter Radio. Is that something you guys would be interested to listen to? Should I put an effort or set up that podcast? Because some of these information.
Freedom Fighter Radio, what is up? Whoa!
Shout out to Freedom Fighter Radio. And Joe, you're doing great work, brother, and I love it. All right,
always.
Make sure you listen to the Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Show.
I'm on Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Joe Show. That's quite a mouthful.
Yes. Hey guys, this is Chris Sky. Listen to Freedom Fighter Radio. They're here today, back in the blue, and so am I.